Singapore may be a little red dot, but our reach is global. Many local companies have expanded beyond our shores, broadening their footprint across the globe. Given today's fast-changing global economic climate, companies should consider venturing overseas to capture new opportunities, enhance business competitiveness, and achieve sustainable growth. Internationalization is a journey, starting from identifying the right market for expansion, to strengthening your capabilities, to taking that first step into the market. However, the journey is not always smooth sailing. Along the way, you will need the right resources and support. Help is at hand. Introducing Global Connect at SBF, the partner for Singapore companies looking to go global. Regardless of your internationalization journey, Global Connect at SBF can help. Established with the support of Enterprise Singapore, backed by an extensive network of partners globally, Global Connect at SBF delivers a comprehensive suite of services to support you on your journey. Join the other Singapore companies who had successfully expanded overseas. Embark on that journey now. Contact Global Connect at SBF today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board the journey to internationalization. For companies who are keen to venture overseas, Global Connect at SBF is here to partner you along this exciting journey. Be it about identifying the right market for expansion, or strengthening your capabilities, or taking your first step into the market, Global Connect at SBF can help in the following areas: internationalization advisory, market information, business matching, capability development, and in-market facilitation. Our friendly market advisors are readily available to help you along this journey. Reach out to them for a complimentary discussion today. Together, we can make your internationalization journey come true. Thank you.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for participating in the SBF Business Matching webinar between Singapore and Japan this afternoon. My name is Alexis, and I will be bringing you through an exciting lineup of programs for today's webinar. Now, without further ado, let us invite Mr. Lam Yi Yang, Deputy CEO of the Singapore Business Federation, to give an opening remarks and welcome all of you to the webinar. Mr. Lam, please.
Thank you very much, Alexis. AG Hisamoto-san, Managing Director of JETRO Singapore, distinguished speakers and panelists, participants from Singapore and Japan, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to today's webinar. On behalf of the Singapore Business Federation, thank you very much for taking time to participate in today's inaugural SBF Business Matching webinar between Singapore and Japan. As you would all know, Japan is a key trading partner of Singapore. Japan is our 8th largest trading partner and the 3rd largest investor globally. Our bilateral economic relationship is strong and was cemented in the 2002 Japan-Singapore Economic Partnership Agreement. This was Japan's first economic partnership agreement and Singapore's first with a major trading partner at the time. Today, both countries are also members of the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership and will be part of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership when it concludes. Beyond trade and investment volumes, these agreements are testament to our like-mindedness on maintaining free, fair, and open trade in the Asia-Pacific. The theme of today's event, collaboration between Singapore and Japan companies to strengthen supply chain resilience in ASEAN, is thus very apt. We are very happy to feature 5 companies from both Singapore and Japan to share about their business, how they envisage expanding into the region, and the type of partners they are looking for. All of us have experienced firsthand how the COVID-19 pandemic has severely disrupted business activities and day-to-day life. With various restrictions on international travel in place around the world, companies have had to find new ways to operate and engage overseas market. This series of business matching webinars between Singapore and Japan is thus part of SBF's effort to help companies to network and explore overseas opportunities despite the travel restrictions. While we are not able to meet physically, we hope these webinars can help us to maintain business exchanges and build new networks. We are thus heartened by the enthusiastic response from both Singapore's and Japan's business communities for today's webinar, where we have more than 300 registered participants. The good response shows how eager both business communities are to restart and capture growth by collaborating on opportunities in ASEAN. On this note, I would like to extend our appreciation to our co-organizer, UOB, and our supporting organizations, JETRO, JCCI, SAIS Corporation, for their strong support. Lastly, I would like to encourage everyone to participate actively in today's webinar and wish you a fruitful session ahead. With the start of the reciprocal green lane for business travel between Japan and Singapore, we will hopefully, in the near future, be able to meet physically over sushi and sake in Japan or over chili crab and tiger beer in Singapore. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Lam. For the next segment of our webinar, we are excited to have 5 featured companies from both Singapore and Japan to tell us their stories on how they are involved in building a resilient supply chain in ASEAN. If you are interested to have a follow-up discussion with any of the companies, please indicate your preference in a poll, which we will launch at the end of each presentation. Our first presenter today is Mr. Ryan Yap, Head of Growth, Innovation and Partnerships, Executive Chairman's Office, YCH. Mr. Yap, over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. Very good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I guess I'm lucky number 1, so let me just get started. All right. So first and foremost, we are YCH Group Private Limited, and we are where we are today is a YCH Supply Chains Solution company. In fact, we are the largest in Asia, but the largest homegrown, a local Singapore logistics company. From very humble beginnings in 1955 as passenger transport, my grandfather actually started the business supporting contractors like the PUB and the British Army. 70s, we got disrupted with the rise of public transportation. But from there, we grew strength to strength to move into logistics. And now where we are as end-to-end supply chain management. So a quick vision and mission statement is our goal has always been to beat inefficiency. And through that, we intend to do so by building what we call the logistics superhighway. We feel that supply chain always consists of three flows: physical, meaning your actual physical cargo; information, data; and financial flow. Of course, most important is cash. We feel that these three things tie together to bring you supply chain. And our goal is to meld this into what we call the logistics superhighway and take all our customers with us on this journey. Just a little bit more background. Our approach is, we believe it's unique. In fact, we trademarked it. We call it 7-party logistics, which is 3 third-party logistics and 4 fourth-party logistics. You add that together, you get what we provide. We do not just execute the tasks. We actually advise what is the best structure, what are the pain points, what are the plus points to get, and we balance it all to give a solution, and we execute. So we're not like consultants, we're not like typical 3PLs, we are both. And I think primarily because of that overarching view, we've managed to expand in a very targeted fashion across Asia Pacific region. So as you can see on my slide, we have about 5,000 employees, over 16 countries. And you note that we are in over 100 locations, 100 cities. The idea is we are looking at depth in the region and not so much broad. We do not wish to expand globally, but rather we chose a very regional expansion to have a very deep connected network. Just a quick example from here, this is the kind of facilities that we are looking at, the modern warehouses. In fact, we try to be best in class or not first in the world across all our locations. And I think this has resonated with our customers. If you can look at the list here, you notice that it's very varied. And that is by design, because at YCH, we don't really focus on, I want to be a chemicals champion, or I want to be a cold chain champion. We look at 2 things, production and consumption. Right? And in supporting those 2 areas, you effectively get the spectrum of customers. And I think that has served us well. You can see from the names here, they're relatively recognizable. I think there's an update here is we recently closed a contract with Procter & Gamble, so that will be under consumer goods. And annually, we handle about $50 billion worth of inventory. Unfortunately, that's not my revenue, but it is what I handle. And we're quite proud of saying that we have yet to lose a single dollar. Now, where we are today is, as I said earlier, we try to build world-class facilities. And I think what I'm presenting to you here is a first in the world facility, because when we recently lost our Singapore HQ, we had the opportunity to redesign and reinvent the face of logistics. And we came up with Supply Chain City. It's because of the innovative idea behind it, that we managed to get a piece of land in the Jurong Innovation District in Singapore, which is spaced and structured for very high-tech, high-innovation models of doing business. And how we achieve that is what we call the Learn ecosystem. You have domain, the operations, you have a training academy, all the way to incubator spaces. And we believe that was the whole ecosystem necessary to take us to that logistics superhighway journey. But every ecosystem, you need a crown jewel, you need a heart. And in that, we developed what we call a Fusionaries. It's a patented facility. We use our 30 years of automated storage and retrieval system know-how, and we combine that on every floor with a traditional, in Singapore, traditional ramp-up warehouse. So all 5 floors are linked, and we augmented the ramp-up warehouse with further automation, like guided vehicles, drones for inventory management, patent pending as well, and dock management to control the flow of traffic, goods, and trucks in our supply chain city. And this is something that we intend to take regionally and expand across our footprint. And just the last thing is to note is that Fusionaries actually won the Supply Chain Transformation of the Year in 2018, because that's when we finished building it. And I think that gives us confidence that we're on the right track. And hopefully we get to put more of these Fusionaries or supply chain cities somewhere in Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yap. So right now we will launch a poll to ask for your preference if you would like to have a follow-up discussion with YCH after this session. Eileen, can I ask for your kind help to launch the poll, please? Okay, and next we will have Mr. Chong Kok Hyong, CEO of Global E-Trade Services, to give us a presentation on its company. Mr. Chong, please.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexis. Good afternoon, everyone. So we at Global E-Trade Services, we are all passionate about powering global trade connectivity. So if Alexis could help me go to that one single slide. Great. So we are really all about powering global trade connectivity, and we want to make global trade truly accessible, predictable, and easier to fulfill. And we do this through our trade fulfillment platform that is branded as Calista. On this platform, we focus on three pivots of services. One of them has to do with logistics. It's about how goods can be moved from one part of the world to another. The second pivot has to do with the compliance, because it's very clear to us that when it comes to global trade, when goods have to move across borders, you have to take care of the compliance issues. And it's really important because consistently research has shown that achieving compliance when it comes to import and export has always been the #1 challenge in cross-border trade. The third aspect of our services, or third cluster of our services, has to do with financing, payments, and cargo insurance. So all these services are rendered to our customers digitally. At the same time, we also provide sort of a concierge service to assist our customers to bridge some of the digital challenges that they might have in consuming digital services, so that they can still experience the end outcome of an efficient, accessible, and predictable trade without having to actually dig too deep into overcoming unnecessary sort of barriers when it comes to accessing digital services. Underlying our platform are actually two sets of technologies that we leverage a lot on to make sure that our services are both smart and secure. In terms of smart, we leverage a lot on artificial intelligence to make sure that our services can be easily consumed and is intuitive from the perspective of the customer. When it comes to the area of security, 2 years ago, we launched our own platform for blockchain, and we make sure that all the data and documents that are passing through our platform are truly secure. So to date, as a platform, we actually see more than 24 million transactions annually. This year is likely to hit beyond 28 million. The gross merchandise value passing through our platform, it has exceeded 1 trillion Singapore dollars. And in terms of the number of parties connected to our platform directly and indirectly, we are growing beyond 175,000 across the world. So in the recent 1 year, we have started to engage a lot more Japanese companies and businesses, both in Singapore as well as in Japan. So in Singapore, we work with a fair number of Japanese trading and freight forwarding companies, especially assisting them in the areas of compliance and logistics fulfillment. Using our technology platform, we actually allow them to manage their data. They are being involved in fulfilling these compliance and logistics requirements. We also provide them the connectivity to various customs nodes across the world. As we speak today, as a platform, we are connected to 61 or 60 customs nodes across the world. Essentially, over on one platform, Calista, a company can now fulfill the documentation requirements for all these jurisdictions. We also provide one of the largest connectivity network to various sort of carriers in the world. Today, I think we have more than 70 carriers that are really directly or indirectly connected to us. So a shipper or a forwarder who needs to make bookings or who needs to exchange documents with carriers are very likely to be able to find them via our platform. Within Japan itself, we have also partnered a company, a software company that deals with freight management. So in combination of their freight management capability and our AI-driven advisory services, we are now able to assist Japanese companies who are in Japan right now to better access overseas markets, including especially the ASEAN markets. And we hope definitely to be able to engage with more Japanese companies to further introduce our value into the market, to the segment. More importantly, to really promote greater trade connectivity between the Japanese and Singapore and ASEAN businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Next, we will move on to the company presentation by Japan companies. First, we have Mr. Kohei Masuda from Nippon Koei. Masuda-san, please.
Thank you for your introduction. My name is Kohei Masuda from Nippon Koei, and today I would like to talk about the climate change and resiliency regarding supply chain. So first of all, well, Nippon Koei is a civil engineering consulting firm and is Japanese #1 leading company. And our experience is over 70 years in business and also over 160 countries. We have technical 5 business pillars: domestic consulting, international consulting, power engineering, urban and spatial development, and energy solutions. We also have many group companies around the world, and the biggest one is BDP, which is an architectural design company from UK. And BDP has Singapore office as well as Nippon Koei, so we can communicate with each other very closely, I think. This is the network that we have. As you can see, we have very worldwide network around the world, especially in Southeast Asia, East Asia, Africa, and in Latin America. Okay, today, although we are an infrastructure company, traditionally, I would like to talk about our strengths supported by R&D culture in climate change adaptation. So in my point of view, the key word in the era with and post COVID-19 is uncertainty. Well, as an infrastructure company, we would like to help you to reduce your risk of the uncertainty. So what can we do? First of all, well, of course, we can design infrastructure, which includes planning, designing, and implementation. But, you know, we cannot call it holistic. Well, what I have to focus in the holistic approach is that we also can do the climate change projection analysis, risk assessment, and also feasibility study. I would like to show you some examples of our value proposition. First one is disclosure of climate change strategy. So we can develop your climate change strategy by climate change modeling, projection, and also risk assessment, risk management planning, and finally disclosure. Here, TCFD, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, where we consider it a very important initiative, which puts resiliency and finance on the same table. The second example is that we will reduce your natural disaster risk by risk assessment, risk reduction, and cost-benefit analysis. So combining these three, we can improve your resiliency for your project. And we will help you to select the best mix of cost-benefit of countermeasures against natural disaster. And we are also developing a scheme, quite a new scheme, to involve insurance companies into resilience of infrastructure. Well, and finally, as this seminar is for Singaporean company and Japanese company, you may not know our company, but I think you should know Surbanjuran, so that's why I would like to show you our MOU recently signed. So we signed, Surbanjuran and Nippon Koei, we signed the MOU about climate change adaptation, resilience enhancement, and smart technology to promote more resilient supply chain and also urban development in Asia and around the world. So with the collaboration with Surbanjuran, I think we can provide you a very good solution for your resiliency in supply chain. So this is all for my presentation, and thank you for listening. And I hope that we could be a good partner for you. And if you have any interest, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Masuda-san. Next, we will have Ms. Hitomi Koike from Matsutani Chemical Industry. Koike-san, please.
Thank you very much, Alexis. My name is Hitomi Koike from Matsutani Chemical Industry. Today, I would like to talk about our latest remarkable products, allulose and rare sugar sweet. Okay. First of all, let me introduce our company. We, Matsutani Chemical Industry, is a more than 100-year-old company in Japan who manufactures modified starch and starch derivatives. We have strong R&Ds, and currently we have been also providing functional ingredients such as dietary fibers and rare sugars. Since our time is limited today, I would focus on rare sugars. In short, rare sugars are sugars that exist in nature in a very small amount. And there are around 50 types of rare sugars, but we are currently looking at rare sugar called allulose, which has unique physiological properties, including suppressing the increase of blood glucose level after meal. Allulose has no calorie, and it is made from natural origin ingredients, which means that it is not an artificial sweetener. So, although rare sugars might be new to some people, rare sugar history itself is quite long. The history started from 1991, when Kagawa University, which is the national university in Japan, began their studies and luckily found out that there might be health beneficial functions in allulose. And that led to establishment of National Academic Industry Project launch in 2002. This was the timing when Matsutani joined and started to seek for commercialization of this miracle sugar. We launched the first product, Rare Sugar Sweet, in 2013, and since then, it has been used by more than 500 brands and in more than 1,500 items. Items on the slide on the right-hand side is just one of the examples. So companies like Coca-Cola, Meiji, Morinaga, Del Monte, etc. have been using our Rare Sugar Sweet. In addition, we have also started selling outside Japan, and including Korea, Hong Kong, India, Saudi Arabia, etc. So for this seminar, we would like to introduce our product so that we can start selling in the Singaporean market too. In terms of our product lineup, sorry. Sorry, doesn't move. So in terms of our product lineup, we have two rare sugar products. One is pure 100% allulose, and brand name being Astria. And another one is Rare Sugar Sweet, which is a glucose syrup containing 50% of rare sugars. Current customers are using on the right-hand side Rare Sugar Sweet because of not only the functionality, but also the unique taste-wise characteristic. As shown in pink square and in the previous slide, Rare Sugar Sweet can be used in various applications, and there is a unique characteristic that the flavor of sauce, fruitiness, etc. will be thicker and enhanced by putting Rare Sugar Sweet. This is one of the reasons that popularity of Rare Sugar Sweet is increasing in Japan. So for pure allulose Astria on the left-hand side, we are now preparing for the launch, and Astria will be a 0-calorie ingredient. We have been discussing with each country's authority about, including ABA or HPV in Singapore, about taking allulose out of sugar labeling, since allulose 0-calorie property does not fit in the definition of sugars. We believe that both products will be suitable, and we strongly hope that Matsutani can contribute for richer and healthier eating for everyone. So, if any of you are interested in our rare sugar products, we are more than happy to discuss with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Koike-san. Lastly, we have Mrs. Mayuko Yagani from YSC. Yagani-san, please. Yanagi-san, may I know if you are able to unmute yourself and also switch on your video, please.
聞こえますでしょうか?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
本日はありがとうございます。
Thank you for your time today.
通訳を介してご紹介させていただきます。
Since I speak Japanese only, my interpreter will be joining together.
まず弊社の会社案内なんですが、
Let me introduce my company YSC shortly before my presentation.
弊社は企業のプロモーショングッズや、生活雑貨を製造している会社になります。
YSC's main businesses are planning and manufacturing for both client sales, promotion items, and lifestyle goods.
主な取引先といたしましては、航空会社、全日空や飲料メーカーのキリン、ヤマト運輸、重機の、クボタ、その他食品会社などを作っている製造メーカーです。ホテルのタオルなどのアメニティグッズも製造しております。
Some of my business partners are All Nippon Airways, Foods and Beverage Company Kirin, Yamato Transportation Corporation, and other whose companies, educational publishers, and hotels.
プロモーショングッズを、製作している関係で日本全国の工場と取引をしております。
Please look at the first slides.
日本にはまだまだたくさんの製造業者が残っておりまして、製品の技術はもちろん、素材品質が良く長く使える商品がほとんどです。でこちらの画像は、弊社の仕入れ先の取引先の一覧です。で海外でも受け入れやすいデザインを一からデザインしてみてはいかがでしょうか。
Today, I'd like to introduce some made in Japan items from YSC's business network. YSC has established strong relationship with factories and craftsmen through our current business for domestic market.
主に仕入れられる商品といたしまして、
Made in Japan crafts are not just beautiful, but they have sophisticated, excellent usefulness and decades of long lives. But lots of them are designed and sold to Japanese market. As our strongest point, YSC can help you not just import existing items from Japan, but also creating your original items with Japanese craftsmen for targeted market events and clients. Your original design are welcome, or our designers can support you.
主に仕入れられる商品としましては、スプーンやフォークなどの金属製品、カットグラス、バッグやポーチ、お皿やコップなどの陶器の製品、タオルなどの綿製品などです。
Most popular made in Japan items are Tsubame Sanjo stainless cutleries, Edo Kiriko sake glasses, Mino potteries, and Imabari cotton towels.
次のページでお願いします。
Please look at the second slides.
すべて形状から本体の色味、印刷までがオリジナルで製造が可能となっております。さらに工場からダイレクトに仕入れますので、価格的なメリットもございます。弊社はさまざまなネットワークがあるので、ほとんどの商品が日本から仕入れることができます。
YSC can realize any shape, any material, and any printings to meet our clients' needs and wants. YSC purchased directly from factories. You'll be satisfied at a very competitive price. Also, we can find new factories on your demands.
次のスライドお願いします。
Please look at the last slides.
品質は良いんですけれども、日本国内での消費が主で、海外には出回っておりませんので、弊社のミッションとしては、日本製品を海外に広めることです。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Lots of made in Japan crafts are known and sold to only Japanese market. There's less opportunities for foreign customers to get to know those hidden items.
本日はありがとうございます。
The collaboration between YC and your company would spotlight those hidden great Japanese crafts in the market out of Japan. Thank you for listening.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much, Yanagi-san.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the next segment for today's webinar. For the participants who are involved in the one-on-one business matching session, you will receive an invitation to join a separate breakout room shortly. For the rest of the participants in the main webinar, we are very honored to have invited Mr. Eiji Hisatomi, Managing Director of JETRO Singapore, to speak at today's webinar. Mr. Hisatomi will be speaking on doing business with Japanese companies under the COVID-19 pandemic. Hisatomi-san, please.
Thank you, Alexis. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Eiji Hisatomi, Managing Director of JETRO Singapore. My background is a little bit different from others. That's Mount Fuji. I hope you can visit and climb the mountain soon, maybe next year or around. So anyway, I'd like to present something about doing business with Japan, especially for Singapore companies. This is my second time for me to work here in Singapore. I know that Singapore and SBF have been in a cooperative relationship for a long time, and I am honored to work with SBF again. I'm happy to see business matchings between Singapore and Japanese companies will still be taking place under such a severe business climate. I appreciate the SBF's initiative and effort today. Next, allow me to share some tips for the Singapore companies on how to do business with Japanese companies. Regardless of whether it is pandemic or not, please bear in mind the following things. When you want to sell your products or services, one of the best ways is to participate in a famous trade show and find importers. If Singapore government organizations have national pavilions at the show, it would be better because foreign companies usually look at the name of the country first, followed by the name of the company. Then, when you want to buy certain products from Japanese companies, JETRO can introduce you good trade shows that you would be able to find Japanese exporters. Most of the Japanese companies in Japan would prefer meeting in person than to meeting on screen. Although it is still very difficult for Japanese persons, difficult for business persons, both Singapore and Japanese, to meet each other directly. But as both Singapore and Japanese Foreign Affairs Ministries announced last Friday, such difficulties will be mitigated gradually, I expect. I would also like to talk about the supply chain management under the COVID-19 pandemic. It was said that a manufacturer should think about efficiencies of your production by concentration. Efficiencies of your production by concentration to get ahead of the competition. But now that many had experienced troubles in supply chains due to the COVID-19 situation, it is said you must think about alternative arrangements by the diversification. However, it is not so easy even for big companies to diversify or build additional capacities, especially in foreign countries. Of course, it costs time and money. To minimize the bad effect of supply chain disruption in the future, you might want to reconsider your business strategies through the following 6 points. 1, procuring materials and parts from multiple companies. Second, increasing the inventory of indispensable material and parts. 3, operating a factory more efficiently with updated automation machines. Number 4, maintaining safe workplace and good communication with workers. 5, securing logistic network, especially beyond the borders. 6, obtaining up-to-date information on COVID-19 at home and abroad. JETRO have a network across ASEAN countries and around the world. Here in Singapore, our office is open to Singapore companies which are interested in doing business with Japan. We are happy to support you in cooperation with SBF and other Japanese and Singapore counterparts, such as the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Singapore, JCCI, Enterprise Singapore, ESG, EDB, and IMDA. If you have any questions or need help regarding doing business with Japan, please contact JETRO at spr@jetro.go.jp. Especially if you are a tech company and is interested in participating in the open innovation of Japanese corporations or to venture into Japan, we have a special platform or additional services that you might be able to tap on. Please feel free to contact us for more information. I hope everyone will have a fruitful session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hisatomi-san. Now, we will move on to the last program, a panel session on the topic of strengthening supply chain resilience in ASEAN. A gentle reminder to our participants that we will not have a live Q&A session for the panel. If you have any specific questions for any of our panelists, please send your questions to us via email after the webinar. At the same time, we will have just opened a poll to gather your feedback on today's webinar. We hope that you can help us fill up the poll before the end of the webinar. For the panel session today, we are very happy to have Mr. Lee In-Kiat, Executive Director, Network Partnerships and Strategic Marketing, Foreign Direct Investment Advisory of UOB as our moderator. Joining him will be Mr. Jeffrey Tan from YCH, Mr. Chong Kok Kiong from GET, and Mr. Kohei Masuda from Nippon Koei. Mr. Lee, over to you, please.
Thank you, Alexis. And thank you, Mr. Hisatomi, for that excellent opening for the session on how Japanese companies can work with Singapore companies in addressing some of the supply chain resilience, especially when it comes to ASEAN. My name is In-Kiat. I'm in the UOB Foreign Direct Investments Advisory team. And the team has been very active in terms of facilitating investments, looking into ASEAN especially as they are thinking about supply chain de-risking. So I am honored to have on my panel Mr. Masuda, Mr. Chong, as well as Mr. Jeffrey Tan, in order to facilitate this conversation regarding supply chain resiliency in ASEAN itself. Basically, I just asked them to really address in the next, over the next 20 minutes or so, if you can think of one or two important things that absolutely that Japanese and Singapore companies need to think about in terms of ASEAN resiliency, what would that be? And speaking on the topic, I will then hand over to each one of them, starting with Mr. Jeffrey Tan. Mr. Jeffrey Tan is the Head of Corporate Development and Group Technology at YCH. Ryan earlier on had already introduced YCH, so I'll just leave Jeffrey to talk about his own experiences in helping companies address ASEAN supply chain resiliency. Over to you, Jeffrey.
Hi, thanks, In-Kiat. Good afternoon, everyone. I believe we have heard from Ryan on what YCH Group does and our presence in the region. We are especially hyped about ASEAN, and that's where we actually started our first overseas expansion in Malaysia. And now, subsequently, we are also in other countries, including Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and in the most recent time, Vietnam. And very interestingly, over the last few years, there has been a tremendous amount of developments in the ASEAN region. And we are actively participating ourselves in all the engagement in ASEAN. And Ryan has also shown you that the base of customers that we have, that we actually handle. And you will notice that a lot of the companies that we actually serve are actually multinational companies, are also Fortune 500 listed companies that have been with us for a long period of time. Interestingly, you don't see quite a lot of Japanese company on our customer list, but you will notice one or two. We do have done services for companies like Fujitsu and also Suntory. That's both in the electronic and the fast-moving consumer goods sector. As you know, the Japan and ASEAN has a long relationship for more than 30 years, and they have built this close collaboration for peace, stability, and also at the same time for business. And this has actually helped to position Japan companies, in the development in ASEAN. And Singapore, at the same time, is also doing that in ASEAN itself, giving our very own set of quality, trusted brands, and have developed closely in the ASEAN region. And for us, as Ryan has shared, we do a lot in focusing on the production and the consumption. Well, consumption, there are a lot of Japanese brands that we could serve. At the production side is also where we actually put a lot of emphasis on. And interestingly, if I were to quote an example, would be like in Vietnam. We actually have Suntory as our customer. We have it also in Indonesia that we are trying to do this. And what differentiates us from the rest of the other maybe logistic players would be our investment into technology. That's number one. I think that has been shared by Mr. G. Our technology enables us to be able to be more competitive than our competitors. And that's why all these brands start to look for us as a service provider to serve them in the ASEAN region, including Japan company. We have more success in Korea, but that's in a way is a different strategy. We actually help Korean companies coming up into ASEAN and serve them. At the same time, it creates our ability to enter into Korea, having our branch office there. We are adopting the same strategy for Japan, trying to serve Japanese company coming out to the ASEAN region, which we are more familiar, and also in terms of culture and language-wise, that we are closer. And we will try to serve them at the same time, partner these companies to really help them to sort of plan out their entire supply chain, in terms of their manufacturing, especially. Of course, all of us know that Japanese has been very, very good in the ERP, the manufacturing, the supply chain side, coming out with various type of methodology like the Kaizen and all this, which is something that we actually practice in our entire supply chain, where we look at how to better manage their inventory using technology, using the way we orchestrate the supply chain to couple with their needs in terms of obtaining an objective in the ASEAN countries itself, where they want to land themselves. And of course, then in the recent times, you have seen that the ASEAN has been collaborating very much with the other three countries, including China, Japan, and South Korea. That's where the ASEAN +3 is coming from. And the production shift from China for Japanese company to ASEAN has already been broadcast in the last few months, where the Japanese company is actually supporting a lot of the firms, Japanese companies, the Japanese government is helping this Japanese company to move their production into ASEAN. And this is actually to really strengthen the ties between Japan in this region through its free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, as alternative to China's BRI program that is actually trying to push for more connectivity and more investment into the China and the countries along the BRI. So the shift is actually very, very obvious. Actually, it focuses very much, and it's actually driven by the US and China trade war, which actually happens quite abruptly and at the same time quite unpredictable. That actually, at the same time, because of the COVID-19 situation, it actually disrupted the entire supply chain. And that's where they are trying to find alternatives besides looking at China, where they actually put most of their initial overseas production in China to shift it to ASEAN. And Japan, as I mentioned, will be able to offer that manufacturing know-how and the trade know-how to ASEAN, which is something that we look for to really partner with Japan moving forward. And I believe there's a lot of learning between Singapore companies and Japanese companies, where the joint venture in joint collaboration in ASEAN could actually be realized. And we have been putting a lot of efforts in the infrastructure development in the ASEAN region. And we are looking for partners, including Japanese partners, to come in to really help us in different areas. We have already done a couple of major investment expansion in Vietnam to build a big facility that includes inland dry port, and also an entire logistic facility. And we wish to look at the strengths of Japanese partners coming in to help us to really realize that entire logistic infrastructure. And we have moved forward from Vietnam to now into Cambodia, and actually looking at a similar type of infrastructure development. We try to create an inclusive, what we call it, a learn ecosystem, where we actually bring in partners from different strengths, from technology, from training, from infrastructure building, to really realize the project itself. And that's our perspective in moving ASEAN forward with our partners. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Yes, truly, YCH has been building up its asset base out, especially in ASEAN. And as we see, COVID-19 caused certain companies to increase the level of inventories, actually in the region itself, to buffer against disruptions. YCH is well poised to address some of these things. And one of the area that has got tremendous growth as a result of COVID-19 has been the use of digital tools and solutions as well. And so I'm going to hand over the time now to KK or Kok Kyung, in order to talk a bit about how has he seen the whole, perhaps COVID-19 affect the use of digital solutions in the whole arena, and also the adoption of their B2B and G2B solutions as well. KK, over to you, please.
Thank you, Inkiet. Actually, I just wanted to share some of the experience that we have been garnering when we work with companies across the region, especially in terms of adopting digital tools when it comes to supply chain. Really emerging from this whole pandemic, COVID pandemic episode, what really strikes me is the fact that I think companies really do need to achieve three things. Number one, being digital. Number two, being connected. But these two not good enough, because we need to achieve digital connectivity in a very secure way. So these, to me, are the three key sort of learning points. I will just talk through each of them quite briefly. In terms of being digital, I think most companies across the region or even the world are fairly there, if you think about it. All of us in our companies have some form of Excel. We are really keying in our data one way or another. So we are fairly digital, right? So I think we are good in that aspect. Perhaps what is missing is the connectivity part. And that is very tricky, because a lot of times, even within our own companies, we find that data exists in silos. So let's not talk about linking up with your partner, with your customer, with your supplier. Just link between your departments, you already have a headache, because we are all existing in some level of system or data silo. And because of that, I think we are not able to fully leverage on the power of technology, right? And if you look at the space of supply chain, that becomes even more critical, because in supply chain, in trade, a lot of data, a lot of documents are involved. You can just think of the piles of things that you have to deal with. So without the right tools or without the right approach to connecting and to sharing data across organizations, across regions, across territories, it will be very difficult for technology to even start to play a role. And when the companies start to think about being connected digitally, there are a few questions that they will ask. Two of them are very primary questions. Number one, is it going to cost me an arm and a leg? Right? Yes. We are all in the area of business. We have to make money. It has to make sense money-wise. Number two, can I trust the party that I'm going to share my data or my processes with? In terms of money, in terms of cost of adoption, I think technology has come a long way. And today, there are many options for companies to explore. The platform that our company is running, Calista, is just one of the examples. There are many digital platforms out there that companies can try out as well. And they are all on a pay-per-use basis. It's a SaaS basis, software as a service basis. That actually lower the cost entry, the entry barrier for using technology. So I think that is not a headache. I think the key problems that a lot of companies are still trying to deal with is this question of, is this secure enough? Can I trust who I'm talking, who I'm collaborating with? And with that, technology has also starting to catch up, right? Especially when it comes to the blockchain space. It really does help us to achieve the ability to manage our data and documents in an immutable way, in a way that's auditable, in a way that you can be quite inclusive within your community. So if we are able to achieve digital connectivity in a secure manner, I think we are quite there. And especially in this post-COVID situation where I think travel, where interactions are still fairly restricted, and I think it's going to be the way of life going forward. Now that people know they do not need to do business just by traveling, they can do business virtually online. Like now, we're just talking to each other online. More and more will be doing it virtually. So I think the ability to connect digitally in a secure manner is going to be key. And these are really the 3 keywords I want to leave with you guys today. Yeah, thanks.
KK, that was excellent. Yeah, I think this whole pandemic has actually pushed us towards facing the fact that we need to be digital and connected. By the practical approach that you've illustrated, we need to be commercially minded. So what's it going to cost? But potentially digital can be lower in cost. You don't have to fly, provided you can trust. And I think between Japan and Singapore, where culturally, trust is such a big factor for us. We need to then collaborate, identify players like yourself, like Gats and Callista, in order to facilitate the building of a connected network, in order to facilitate more business flows and build that trust along the way. So thank you for that, KK. And then if I bring it up to another level now, in terms of infrastructure, and when you talk about resiliency, it's not only in the short term where you have disruptions because of the pandemic, but you have a longer term threat in terms of climate change. And I think here to speak to us about that is Mr. Masuda-san. In terms of what do we need to bear in mind in terms of the infrastructure of the requirements of the future, and potentially how that could actually affect supply chains as well. So I'll hand over the time to Mr. Masuda-san now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, first of all, as I speak in the presentation, well, we have to now consider more in the uncertainty, because we are really in an uncertain world, and we are very concerned of it. So, and the one solution that we can provide is to deal with the uncertainty in the climate change. So, well, first of all, I think we have to think of, well, speaking of the climate change is not about, only reducing CO2 emission, but now we have to, we also have to focus in the climate change adaptation. Well, also we have to focus in the mitigation, but speaking about the resiliency of the supply chain, the climate change adaptation is more important. Okay, and speaking about the climate change, well, I think the 3 major climate change will be temperature, sea level rise, and precipitation. Well, actually, the change of the temperature, for example, temperature rise will shorten the life cycle of the infrastructure. And for example, in the case of sea level rise, well, we have to think that it will increase the risk of, for example, the flood. Well, we have to think of the drainage system also. There will be also more severe risk of tsunami, storm surge, etc. And speaking of the precipitation, if there is a very extreme precipitation, there will be very much risk of the flood, etc. And I think speaking of the resiliency in the supply chain, I think I should talk about the airport and seaport. And in case of airport, well, that is because they both are so much related to supply chain, and also I think relatively more vulnerable to the climate change. The airport, because in addition to the general issues, for example, if the temperature rises, the runway has to be designed longer because the density of the air will decrease. And also, for example, well, airport is very vulnerable to extreme weather. For example, well, if there is lightning, heavy rain, haze, or hail, the flight will be canceled. So that's why, well, in case of the airport, the climate change will affect it more severely than the other infrastructure. And also speaking of seaport, well, as you can imagine, well, seaport is very close to the sea, and you will have a really severe effect of sea level rise. It will bring more risk of storm surge and tidal wave, and also the drainage design will be you have to be very considered if the sea level rise gets to the very relevant stage. Okay, this is all for my. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matsuda-san. Yeah, I think those are very pertinent points. I mean, that's the reason why actually runway 3 in Singapore and runway 2 in Singapore is in the midst of actually uplifting and filling up into a greater height. And essentially is to make sure that continuous operations can take place should there be precipitation suddenly, as well as sea level rises as well. And I think this is an issue that not only is happening in Singapore, but it's the whole of Southeast Asia, and if not the world as well. And I think that overall consideration is something that's going to be very key for us in terms of planning resilient supply chains. Thank you so much, all the 3 panelists, for your time. I'll just round it off by just talking about how, try to find yourselves as expertise in your various areas, be it digital, in the whole area of assets and services, and then in the infrastructure. It's actually a very complex problem in terms of supply chains in Southeast Asia itself. And I will just make a pitch for UOB, who has one of the largest networks for in Southeast Asia itself, that we will know the various players who have the infrastructure, who have the digital solutions and the assets and the services in order to service you in Southeast Asia itself. But it's not a static problem. It is potentially something that you need to look into the future. So let's gather together as communities to think about what does Southeast Asia need to do in terms of supply chain resilience in order to make sure that we are viable as well as profitable in the world that is to come. So I really want to thank everyone for their time. SBF will be launching a survey very soon in order to talk to you, ask you about feedback. I'm sorry that we cannot do a question and answer session, but really sometimes you and I sit in many, many webinars, and 1 hour is probably where we want to get to be in terms of facing the screen. So with that, feel free to reach out to any one of us. And if you want to ask any direct questions to any one of us as well, let the organizers know. So thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee.
Alexis,
and panelists. Yeah, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of today's webinar, and we hope that all of you had a fruitful session today. A gentle reminder to help us fill up the webinar poll before you leave. At the same time, if you would like to receive future event invitations and updates on China and North Asia markets from us, please scan the QR code to join us as the SBF China and North Asia Business Group member. Thank you, and we look forward to your participation in our next webinar. Goodbye.
Okay, thanks, Alexis. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee. Goodbye.